Yes, Halloween, the greatest time of the year, when the leaves are falling off the trees and all the decorations start going up. Yes, this is my personal history of Halloween events, specifically Haunted House Tour, starting in 1993. So I just thought that I'd like to share it with you. And this is the entrance to the Basement of Doom. Got the idea from an episode of The Muppet Babies, which was a parody of Temple of Doom. There's a warning sign that there's a monster waiting for you at the end. That's nice. So if you go down the steps, it's supposed to be like you're in a forest. If staring at bad drawings makes you feel like you're in a forest, then yeah, whatever. So then there's all these dummies laying around. It's weird looking at all this today because I don't remember what was going through my mind, but there wasn't much effort put into this. It was my first haunted house and it had the basics. It was dark and with different tape cassette players playing scary sound effects. Just cardboard tombstones on the floor and that's it. That, of course, is my first graveyard. It's come a long way with the deader the better. Now, what's this? Two chairs put together with a keep out sign? Like it's supposed to be a gate, and then there's a dead body. Now, keep in mind, I don't have any video of the actual tour. This is just me walking through with the camera. But we would have a Halloween party every year and bring people through. My friends who lived in the neighborhood would have actual roles in it. They would jump out and scare the guests, which worked most often. I mean, there was one part where my dad jumped out and he screamed and it just scared the shit out of everybody. So even with the pathetic decorations, you could probably scare somebody in broad daylight if you just jump out at them. Okay, this is my favorite part. It's a bat, a paper bat hanging from a string. That's the worst haunted house prop I've ever seen. I probably drew that bat in like 2 seconds. It doesn't even look like I ever picked the pen off the paper, and I didn't even cut it out right, like the scissors didn't even come close to the bat. What was I thinking? Then there was the monster, which was actually from the Snicks movies that I made. Yeah, that paper mask I used over and over again. So now let's go to 1994. That's me.
I have something to show you.
No, you first.
Oh, the severed finger gag. Dried ice was the highlight of the party. We put it in the orange soda and watched it bubble and smoke. That stuff's still pretty cool, but back then I remember everybody was so fascinated with it. Like, geez, it's just dried ice. Another big advancement that year was the strobe light. Those were pretty awesome too. Then there was the black light, everything glows. I was still using the same cardboard tombstones from last year, but the black light helped the atmosphere a lot. Still, there wasn't much going on. You just walk down in the basement. There's like 2 rooms and a bunch of dummies laying around. Again, the same paper Snicks mask. And this was the room where the strobe light was, but this is with the regular lights on. And here's the graveyard with the lights on. You can see I started hanging brown sheets of paper over the walls. This covered up anything that made the haunted house just seem even more stupid than it was. I can't find any video from 1995, so we're skipping to 1996. This time there was a lot of advancements. I was actually using the whole thing as a set to a movie, An Evening of Real Supernatural Horror. I don't know where I came up with that title. There's this skull that blinks and screams, and there were a lot of things to read too. I mean, they were supposed to be like ancient scrolls and stuff. There's a skeleton under the black light, and then there were rats. I mean, no, they never actually moved, but this is from the movie where it's like stop motion. But the rats got a pretty good response. If you step on them, they squeak, so it would catch people by surprise. There's the paper walls again, but this time I was actually hanging the walls in the center of the room, like they were like hanging from the ceiling, so it kind of made like boundaries where everybody could walk through, kind of like a maze. I got a lot more props, like rubber bats. We'd swing them around and try to make it look like they were moving. Way better than the paper bats from '93. There's also a fan blowing streamers. With the wind sound effects, it enhanced the atmosphere a lot. Like if you were standing there alone, despite the cheap decorations, it felt pretty creepy. And I just loved creating this environment. It was just a lot of fun. There was a bit too much to read though. Like when the lights were out, you couldn't even see what it said, so I had to hold the flashlight to everything, so whoever was in the back of the line would never see all the details. So there's a spider, which we had someone hiding behind the paper wall, pulling the spider up by a string. Then you go into this tunnel, and in the movie I used a red floodlight just for effect, like I'm going into hell, but in the actual tours it was pitch black. I mean, you can see some light at the end, but it was like you wouldn't see what you were going through. But before you go all the way in, you see all these spiders and snakes hanging around. There's this rubber one, and you'd give it like a little yank, and it would just bounce around for like a half hour. It was great because it moved almost like it was a real snake. There was also packing peanuts all over the floor, but you wouldn't see what you were stepping on. It was like bugs or something, and it freaked people out. It even made adults feel uneasy. Even better, the same person who operated the hanging spider would reach through holes in the paper and they'd grab people as they walked by. We scared the shit out of people. So you come through the tunnel and now it's like another part of the haunted house, but this is all actually happening in the same room. Oh, those spider web things. You know, like you buy it and it's like cotton and you sort of like just stretch it apart. I hated that stuff. It was so hard to get it to stay where you want. Then there was this coffin made out of a refrigerator box and someone would pop out. Oh yeah, and then it's Mr. Janglin' Bones. If you go near him or make a sound, then he turns on and he starts blinking his eyes and laughing. So then I had severed hands hanging from the ceiling. I'm just playing around with it there. Now the cemetery had a major advancement. This is what it looked like in natural light, and this is what it looked like for the tours. I painted the backdrop to the cemetery and put the tombstones on a ping pong table with dead leaves, so it was actually like looking out a window. Of course there were dummies all over the place, but sometimes there'd be an actual person waiting to get up and scare you, but you never knew which one it would be. Sometimes we added extra stuffing to the real person, so you think that they were just a dummy. Then you go into the second room and it's all in strobe lights, set up like a mad scientist's laboratory. That's the Frankenstein monster on the table, but you can't really see him too well. One of my friends played the mad scientist and he went completely nuts. It was hilarious. Alright, so that was that. It's getting better. 1997 was basically the same setup as the last year, but it was just improved. Again, the footage you're seeing is from another movie, The Spread of Malevolence. Yeah, you know, making a haunted house in my parents' basement, I had to tear it down after Halloween was over. But at this point, they were starting to become so much work, and it was mostly just me, that I had to start it in September. And then to make it all worth it, I had to bring guests down and conduct the tours all month long. So it would just spread word of mouth, and next thing, people are knocking on my door all the time to see the haunted house, so I'd grab any friends that were available to act in it. The bug tunnel was such a success that I continued it, but this time you come into a room that was all backlit and painted with glow-in-the-dark paint, so it was like you were surrounded by ghosts. So then you have to crawl through a tunnel, and as you crawl through, you feel stuff against your face. It was pitch black. So this was the last haunted house in the basement. After that, it was becoming an inconvenience to my parents, and I was a senior in high school. Things were getting busy, and I knew that once I got to college, I would have to quit the haunted house. So the following year, 1998, I did it in the garage and called it the Atmospheric Garage the Supernatural. I don't know why I love the word supernatural so much, but that was the best one, and you should see the whole video of it coming next. It's been 10 years since I had the haunted house, living in my own apartments. There was never any room for it, and lately things have been too busy, but if I did one now, it would look something like this. This is from the movie I made, The Deader the Better. It wasn't Halloween, it was done specifically for the movie, but I hope that one day I can do another haunted house. If you like Halloween as much as I do, then you could probably relate to all this, and I hope it brings back good old nostalgic memories of when you were a kid and Halloween was awesome, and to hold on to that feeling. And if you're a kid right now, then I hope it inspires you, but that you realize how much work it is and to keep it safe, because with putting a lot of people into dark rooms and scaring them, there's a lot of precautions you should take. I mean, just think about everything you're doing. But anyway, be sure to check out the next video, The Atmospheric Garage of the Supernatural.